Minister finally urged respect from the fans after incidents of booing. The England team will take the knee before every game in the Euros, as will Wales, and Scotland will take the knee before their match with England. But when tens of millions of football fans around the world watch UK footballers taking the knee, will it trigger real change? Football, the beautiful game, is also a sport that right now is at the epicentre of a huge cultural moment. On Sunday, when the England team take to the field against Croatia, they will copy the Premier League clubs many of them play for and kneel before the game to show their solidarity with the anti-racist cause. The specific gesture originated in 2016 with Colin Kaepernick, an American footballer. The point was that in America you're expected to stand for the national anthem. By doing the opposite, he was protesting against racism.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
In 2020, the murder of George Floyd led to a surge of global support for the Black Lives Matter movement, which in turn led to English footballers taking the knee to highlight racial inequality with the endorsement of the Premier League and the clubs. But English football swiftly moved away from the BLM slogan itself, changing it to no room for racism. Specific organisations taking the name Black Lives Matter were associating themselves with wider political campaigns such as defunding the police and support for Palestine. It started meaning different things to different people.
So the game about to begin, well, that is quite a reaction to the players taking the knee.
Fans started returning to the stadium after COVID restrictions relaxed, and for the first time some were heard booing when players took the knee. The Prime Minister at first refused to criticise them, but today said that booing should not happen. Perhaps this is where it all really began. The iconic Black Power salute of Tommy Smith and John Carlos at the 1968 Olympics still resonates. They were expelled from the Games for this. The Tokyo Olympics will very soon be upon us, and the Olympic Committee has banned taking the knee as a political gesture. And I'm joined now by Oliver Brown, Chief Sports Writer for The Telegraph, and Mickey Ambrose, a former Chelsea player. Good evening to you both. Mickey Ambrose, first of all, how do you think you'll feel when you see the England team taking the knee in front of millions of people in so many countries around the world?
Well, to be frank with you, I was born in Poplar. When a car went past when I was 5 and called me a so-and-so, the teacher didn't know how to explain racism to me, but my late mother did. And the issue we have in society today is that there is racism in football and in society. If you look at the Football Association alone, that was 1863, it was formed. They've never employed a black person or someone from an ethnic minority in a senior executive full-time role who's got a vote. And that sounds volumes, doesn't it? Taking the knee is an individual choice for that individual. It's up to them if they do it. But pushing over a statue into the water is not going to bring back anything. It's old memories. We need to move on from that. And more importantly, if we keep taking the knee, where is it getting us as well? What's been achieved in terms of, has government, has Boris Johnson said he's going to do something? Has the FA, finally got their act together, which is very, very difficult. Because as I said, the FA, they don't even know how many UEFA B coaches there are. There's no data. So it is very difficult for each individual. It's a personal choice, to be frank.
So do you think there's a danger that the repeated taking of the knee just becomes a thing and then people don't think about it anymore and it just becomes a thing that footballers do on the pitch?
I think there is a danger, but if you flip it around, what has the Football Association done? What have governing bodies done? What has the government done about racism in football? What have they actually done? So taking the knee is, we're fighting against the system, aren't we? Sexism, homophobia, we're fighting against the system. So whether you're black or white and you're taking the knee, you're doing it for a reason. If you don't take the knee, it doesn't mean you're a racist. It doesn't mean you're a racist. It's the individual choice. I just want to see governing bodies do more about racism. We've got what black players have contributed to football in this country. It's been amazing, but it's not replicated in the boardroom, is it?
Do you think then, over, sorry. Do you think that actually it's a gesture which has any real meaning beyond, because clearly Mickey is very concerned at it simply just being a sort of gesture without any kind of meaning. But surely it's drawing attention repeatedly to a wrong.
I'm not sure the consistent repetition is really magnifying the significance of the gesture. I mean, I think this is not just the commentariat saying that. This is, celebrated black players like Les Ferdinand who worried, I think earlier this year, that it was becoming a bit like clap for carers, and it was something that was originally very well intentioned, but lost its impact the more it was repeated.
What you're saying is the shock seems to be that actually it hasn't made a difference to the footballing hierarchy. It hasn't made a difference to the way clubs operate. Isn't that the shock? Isn't that an appalling indictment, actually, of English football?
It's pretty much what I expected. I think that there is an obsession in sport and in football in particular with gestures, and this particular gesture is just not really resonating, I don't believe. Part of the problem is that it is proving polarising in a sense. I mean, I was at Middlesbrough on Sunday. There were only 8,000 in the ground. The booing was loud, it was sustained, and it makes you wonder what will happen with 80,000. And I think the argument about Black Lives Matter has passed. I mean, no one in all good conscience could claim that the England players are foot soldiers for the Black Lives Matter.
But it's a broader thing for them. For them. But let's just go back a minute to that booing. I mean, we passed over it very quickly there. And surely there could be absolutely no excuse for the booing.
Well, I mean,
no.
Sorry, go on.
I'm going to ask you both the same question on this. I wonder if you're of a mind on this or not.
I think you have to be quite careful in answering it, because I don't believe everyone booing was an irredeemable racist. Some undoubtedly are, but I think there are other problems in that some people perceive this as an import from America. You mentioned Colin Kaepernick in your introduction. He was highlighting very legitimately the police brutality against African Americans, and I think maybe people here wonder, does that same pathology exist to the same extent here in the UK? And I also wonder if for a lot of fans they're reaching this point of protest fatigue, essentially, where they're back in stadiums finally, and they don't want maybe the football to be prefigured.
I think a lot of black British people would say. I think a lot of black British people would say is that actually the pathology is pretty bad here at times, to be honest.
Yes, I would agree.
Mickey, what do you think about that? What do you think about this whole question of whether or not booing it says something bigger about the fans?
Look, I've been involved in football for many years, playing for Sumer, my local club in Stepney, and there's always been that element of racism. When I used to go, in fact, my football coach was Harry Cripps, who was a Millwall legend. Millwall's clubs always had a tarnished name, but Millwall in the community does some fantastic work regarding anti-racism. So, I mean, they're booing for a reason. You can't stop somebody coming to a football match and wanting to shout this or shout that to identify them on CCTV, and you ban them for life in certain situations. So the booing is they're doing it for a reason. All I want to say is we've had Kick It Out, Kick Racism Out Football, Kick It Out. The organisation has been going for many, many years. Players wearing T-shirts, warming up, Kick It Out, Kick It Out, Kick It Out. And what's happened? We've got nowhere. And the reason why we've got nowhere is because government and organisations like the FA there's no clear picture. I mean, as I said, the Football Association have never employed a black person in a senior executive role. And I don't understand that, personally. I know I'm diversified, but that's very important.
No, that is important, and I wonder, Oliver, if you agree with that. Actually, this comes from the government, this comes from the Department of DCMS, this comes from schools, this comes from a much bigger place. The government actually has a responsibility.
Yeah, I would like to see
role models.
Yeah, I would like to see fewer gestures, more structural change, and I'd like us to get to a situation where Marcus Rashford opens his social media account, he doesn't have to read screens of horrendous abuse. I mean, and I wonder if taking the knee is the right way to get to that point, but I hope we do get there.
Thank you both very much indeed. And just looking for Mora's front pages, and despite the photographs at Cornwall, the EU leaders are going to threaten Johnson with